Welcome back to Beyond Classified. I'm your host, Chris Matthew. Tonight my guests are Jennifer Hughes and Sasso Luznor with the Venus Project. Before I bring them on, I want to let you know that you can get tickets to Forbidden Knowledge NewsCon 2021, April 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. There's going to be 12 amazing presenters. Just visit forbiddenknowledge.news to check out this year's awesome lineup and get your tickets today. And finally, we could really use donations this month. This is the month we won't be getting paid from our podcast provider because of their so-called accounting mistake. But we're moving on from that, and we would really appreciate it if you'd like to donate. Those links are in the description. Tonight, I want to welcome Sasso Luznor and Jennifer Hughes. Sasso has been a volunteer for the Venus Project since 2011. He was a point of contact for Slovenia and a global administrator to over 50 countries. He has a background in security, administration, and real estate. Jennifer has been a volunteer for the Venus Project since 2012 as co-coordinator for the social media department. She has a background in biological sciences, marketing, communication, and administration. Jennifer, Sasso, welcome. How are y'all doing tonight?
Hi, Chris. Thanks for having us.
Hi, Chris. We're doing good.
Good. Welcome. I want to read a small paragraph about your organization just to give the audience a little idea about it. The Venus Project is an organization that proposes a feasible plan for action for social change, one that works towards a peaceful and sustainable global civilization. It outlines an alternative to strive towards where human rights are no longer paper proclamations, but a way of life. We propose a fresh, holistic approach, one that is dedicated to human and environmental concerns. It is an attainable vision of a bright and better future, one that is appropriate to times in which we live, and both practical and feasible for a positive future for all the world's people. And that goes on, there's a lot more to it, but it sounds amazing. And we really want to find out all about it. That's why we're having you on tonight. I want to start with hearing a little bit just more about each of you and what kind of brought you to be involved with the Venus Project.
All right. Yeah, thanks. I just was online, I guess, saw some links that featured Jacques Fresco back in late 2010 and on my friend's Facebook page, and then just kind of got into the discussion of who this person is, and obviously very interested in very unorthodox, I guess, way of thinking. And at the time I just wanted to know more and kind of went down the information that was on the website and on the YouTube links, and at the time when there were already some interviews and there were documentaries and whatnot. So yeah, just kind of got through that whole thing, and then try to get involved as soon as I could in Slovenia, and also just with the global organization.
Very cool. And what about you, Jennifer?
Yeah, I actually was watching Netflix, just scrolling through documentaries that were on Netflix. And one of our documentaries there used to be on Netflix, called Future by Design. So, I saw that and then clicked it just to see what that was about. And, it seemed very interesting. So I watched that, and as soon as I watched it, I just reached out to them to see if I could help them. I went to, their Facebook page and stuff like that, and I asked them if they needed any help with social media and things, and just try to help, in every area that we could, since basically once you come across something like that, it's you want to get involved to try to make it happen as much as you can.
Yeah, definitely. So I guess we should start with telling us about what the Venus Project is, and then we'll get into who Jacques Fresco was and his vision for it. But what exactly what is the Venus Project? Tell us about it.
Yeah, that's a great question. That's basically, I guess, going to take us this whole podcast to try and get through. But just really quickly, I guess it's beneficial maybe to think about it without any kind of reference to the isms that we already kind of know and have heard about. Everything from capitalism to communism, fascism, all these isms. And just kind of try and focus on the technical solution that it presents. It basically just wants to be an alternative proposal for the way that we organize our social systems. Obviously, we can see how many flaws this capitalist monetary social system has that we've all been a part of now for so long, that we just feel like it's time that we should update that, with trying to transition into something that's more sustainable, just from the point of view of our ecosystem, our planet, but also just the way that we apply basically our knowledge, instead of having that be the end goal of profits. We need to, shift our focus towards providing for people, abundance, providing, security, providing the things that they need. And, just to kind of give a quick summary, I guess that's what we're going to talk about today, and maybe how to get to that point.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Anything to add, Jennifer?
Oh yeah, I was going to say, another thing too about it is basically one of the main purposes or one of the main things that we talk about is that, as we're advancing technologically and advancing in our society in so many ways, we really need to make sure that that technology is working for the benefit of people and the benefit of the planet. Not that we're coming up with these technologies that are destructive to the planet and destructive even to people's ability to access the things that they need. We're in a very advanced technological society now, and we're at a point that we have the large amount of resources that we need already to care for everyone. But now we're sort of stuck in this system of where because we haven't really upgraded our social systems like we have upgraded our technologies. So now we're sort of, as we're advancing the technologies, we're sort of getting stuck of where we're making plenty of cars, we have houses, we have food, we have things like that. And now we have a monetary interference instead of a factor of scarcity like we used to have in the past. So we don't have that. And the scarcity now is because of people not having money to obtain these things that they need. So we're looking at if we can put a better operating system in place, because what really is the most important thing that we should be trying to do when it comes to our societal operating systems is taking care of everyone on the planet, not just a few people having a certain way of life, but every single person, and also taking care of the planet itself that we live on. So if now the way that our systems are is that we have it focused, around profit and not around people or the planet, then that's a very flawed system. And then so if we can keep continuing to do different things like advancing our technologies in ways that say we may be able to replace jobs with all of these new technologies and things that are coming in, that could be wonderful. And we propose that within a resource-based economy to try to automate things to alleviate people of repetitive work that they might not want to do, anything that they don't want to do, and allow them to live their life more towards stuff that they want to spend their time on versus have to spend their time on just to survive. But now with automation in a monetary system, there's even an extra thing that people are facing now of really being automated out of work. And so without, changing the operating system, then this automation is not something that's going to be beneficial to people. It's going to be something that can really cause them a lot of unnecessary suffering and death and things like that don't need to occur. And that's already happening. These automations are already coming even in these monetary operating systems that we have, because it's cheaper for them to, not have to pay a salary, not have to pay insurance, not have to pay time off, not have, it's a robot. If it breaks, you fix it. You pay for it one time or whatever, and it breaks, you throw it out in the trash and get another one. So, as they're noticing that, it's going that way anyway. And then, we're running across, do we have to put in then other monetary systems like basic incomes or things like that to replace wages? And then, are we going to be out there fighting over increases in basic incomes and stuff like that, when we may be able to just look at transitioning away from this type of societal operating system altogether and be focused on a system that is trying to meet the needs of everyone and the planet the best, that we can continuously. We want to continuously be upgrading everybody's life with the improvements and things that we make, not taking away from people's quality of life with technologies that we make or something like that. So yeah.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, we definitely need a major change with our society, with the monetary system, with our work system. We need, I believe it needs a total overhaul. And
For sure.
I see a lot.
Completely.
Yeah, I see a lot wrong with our society every day. And
Yeah.
I'm sure that Jacques Fresco also saw the same problems whenever he kind of was formulating the Venus Project. I'd like to know about, as much as you can tell us about a little bit of history behind Jacques Fresco and what, how did he get started with everything?
Yeah, I mean that's his is a long story. He was born in 1916, so basically he was there for the Great Depression in 29, and that's kind of where the time when you kind of are growing up, where he saw a lot of the problems with our society that you and I are talking about right now still. Where there were goods in the stores, but people were out, in soup kitchens, not having any money, not having work, kind of all the same problems that we're talking about now still. And if you look at some of the unemployment numbers are basically the highest they've ever been since that point now. So 100 years later, basically his kind of whole life passed. We still have the same type of problems, while technologically we should be way more advanced, which with the technology itself we are, but just not with the system that we operate with. So that was kind of his introduction to, okay, things are not going well, what can we do to change it? And then he went through kind of figuring out all those isms that I mentioned before. He tried to, get information on all the different systems that around the world, how things are done. Is there, even a system anywhere that works? And, pretty much as far as the developed countries, he figured out that there isn't any. So if that's the case, then, what can we do to develop one? And that was really his his kind of life goal ever since he was 13, 14, 15 years old, and up to 101 when he died not that far back. So I mean it's just the amount of things that he was exposed to in his life and his way to approach all these problems with trying to search for solutions, is just very unique, I feel like, in this century. And so he had a lot of things that he thought about differently, and it's very challenging, I feel like, for people to get exposed to that. And yeah, so his there was a museum exhibit that basically had his 100 years of invention and his life kind of presented with everything that he's done. But really most of his last maybe 30, even 40 years, he just kind of stopped with all the technical inventions because he saw that that's really not the problem. That regardless of what kind of technology we have or we get or we develop, the social problems just persist all the time. So so he would always kind of return back and try to talk about the social problems and the social solutions. And his answer was the resource-based economy that he coined, and basically to try to organize our whole society a little differently.
Yeah.
Maybe also too, before we get into the ideas, and I'm sure you got a lot of questions too, that you asked about the Venus Project before. Just from a very practical standpoint, the Venus Project also is the name of the nonprofit. So it's a nonprofit organization called the Venus Project, named after Venus, Florida, which is a small town in Florida. So it has no kind of I don't know, celestial significance that a lot of people think. So that's pretty much just what that is. And then we obviously have the website on thevenusproject.com, which has an enormous amount of information pretty much on Jacques Fresco, his biography, for people that want to get a little bit more into the nitty-gritty of what he was up to, but also just on the project itself and everything. And we can't go by to not mention Roxanne Meadows, which is his life partner. She's been there with him for the last 40 years, and pretty much everything that's been built since the 80s has been her sweat. So we're pretty lucky that we have her as that source of information that we can always still go back to. So
yeah, and I just wanted to put a few more points about just about Jacques. Like Sasha was saying, because of the time that he was born, or the year that he was born, and living through the Great Depression like that, just to embellish on that a little more, he did see food in the stores and people in the breadlines, and goods in the stores and people not able to afford them. But in his time, they did not have the technology that we have now at all. So even in those times, he was still putting together, wait a second, like there's stuff, it's just these pieces of paper basically that are interfering with people getting stuff. And now we have such more advanced technologies that we're throwing away food just like in the garbage, left and right, and letting cars rot, in the lots and things like that. It's really that's the way that I want to word this. It's really a matter of, we're kind of considered to be the dominant species on the planet. Humans are considered to be the dominant species on the planet, all of us, and this is the only planet for the most part that we inhabit now. We're just starting to do space exploration and stuff like that. But why do we have systems in place that are not to the benefit of ourselves and our home? Why do we have something that is where the centered focus of it is profit, which is an invention? Profit's an invention. Humans are not an invention. The planet is not an invention. Trying to take better care of even the other species that are here, and things like that. Those exist, whereas yes, I know we've physically printed out paper now, but it has to do a lot with the fact too that this system has been in place for pretty much everyone that's alive right now. Unless you're in some tribes and things like that where they don't use money still, and they still work a lot with sharing economies or whatever, and there things like that. But other than that, everyone's kind of seen this and been born into it and just been pummeled with this type of system since they were born. And it's like we have this idea that it has to be this way, kind of because it's always been this way. But when we really look at it, all of these different types of economies we've put into place, even when it was barter and trade and things like that, were made by us to try and make an attempt to make things easier and distribution of goods easier and things like that. But now it's actually come to a point where it's interfering with the distribution of goods instead of allowing it to happen better to a lot of people, because now the money is it's so far in the way that it's killing and torturing people needlessly. The stuff is there. The past, like I said, in the past, you could say even, there really wasn't obviously a lot of, nothing like the production and distribution we have now technologically, so, okay, yes, there was some real scarcities of things 100 years ago and stuff like that. But, now it does not need to be that way anymore.
Yeah, you're exactly right. It sure doesn't. Now, I want to get into some of your projects and proposals that you're going to be working on. Also, to talk about what a resource-based economy is. But before we get into that, I was looking at a little bit about Jacques Fresco, and he had a book about socio-cyber engineering. Now, that's the first time I've ever heard that word. I was wondering if you could enlighten us a little bit about what that is.
Yeah. So socio-cyberneering is basically, Jacques coined that phrase as, at the time, basically to represent resource-based economy. But I guess at that time, that was in the late 60s, I guess. And nobody really knew what any of those three words mean even separately back then. Almost. So it was, when they kind of started actually to build things in Florida and everything, they figured, okay, that this is just something that's going to be hard for people to understand what it's about. But really, as far as just putting together the social systems, the social aspect of the project, and that has the component of cybernation, which means basically automating repetitive jobs and things like that to provide for people with less amount of work required, physical work, and obviously the engineering part is the one that was kind of the most obvious. But yeah, that just means that we would use cybernation and engineering to apply it directly to our social system. Really, that's kind of what it's about. And currently, the socio-cyberneering education projects that we have going on is actually our most extensive education course for volunteers that can be found on the website. So that's a little bit about that.
Very good. Anything to add, Jennifer, before we move on?
No, I don't think I have anything to add there.
Okay.
That one pretty much covered it.
So I guess that should bring us to what is a resource-based economy. If you could explain, the ideals behind that.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, like I said before, it's quite a lot of ground to cover. Generally, I feel like probably we're gonna have most of the people that haven't really heard of this idea that much. So maybe to start off, it would be a good representation to kind of to explain like how Jacques viewed it,
Sure.
and just how to apply that to our system. But really, if you look at the idea of how the human body works, right? It's a system that is incorporating all these organs, all these processes, and everything is working seamlessly, meaning that you don't have to be thinking about, oh, my heart needs to be beating, my blood needs to be pumping, my liver needs to be doing things. So things are automated inside your body too. So that's kind of where Jacques got the idea of the system that he developed, because if there are certain things in your body that are not working, then, the whole body is not working. If the liver, the liver can't say, oh, I'm not going to filter blood anymore, the body dies. If, the brain isn't working, the body dies. If the heart isn't working. So there's a lot of interconnecting variables. And, it's the same thing with the way that we organize our either civilization as a whole or a city like that too. So if that's how our body works, why don't we organize, our cities and our society that way too? So a lot of things can be automated. A lot of processes can be automated, and that way, really, what we call today, political system is there to try and have a system of decision making, but it's pretty much based on ideas and not really based on processes, not really based on responding to people's needs, etc. So that's really kind of what we want to do. Let's say, there's going to be basic things that every person needs. They need, shelter, they need clean water, they need clean air, food, healthcare system. So if we take one of those systems and we just provide it automatically so that it's abundant, then there's no need for any person to work in that system anymore. Like in today's system, that would be bad because that would mean we don't have jobs, right? So unemployment, all that stuff. But really, we want to go beyond that and say, well, no, we will provide these things because we can, and we have the technology to do so. And it should be free, provided for two people in our society. And there are certain things or certain aspects of our system that do work that way, but only in small pockets. So another example of what kind of sharing economy you can see in that kind of small pocket is a public library. You go there, you check out books, you take them, you bring them back, and you can do that. People do that now in certain other countries, sorry, do that in certain other areas too, where you have cars like that too. You come, you check out the car, you bring it back. Or bicycles in certain European cities, you take the bicycle, you go to your next destination, drop it off there, etc. So things like that can be developed. In this system, it's harder because there is no money incentive to do that. But in a resource-based economy, that would be the goal. So technologically, we can do that. But the goal would be that these things would be free and provided. So just from those kind of practical, I guess, applications of certain aspects that we already have today, you can kind of just expand on that and see that there's a lot of areas in today's society that that wouldn't need any kind of politicians to make decisions and things like that. That's all just inefficiency today.
Yeah, and not that we're proposing that everything that we do within a resource-based economy has to be shared or anything like that. People can have their own things, if they want to have their own thing, and that's fine also. But there's a lot of efficiency in regards to people. Just these are smaller examples, but how maybe you own a car. And not to mention all the work that you have to do just to buy the car, and then pay for the car, and then pay for the insurance, and pay for the maintenance, and pay for all of this. It usually sits there most of the time. So there are, and this is already starting in a monetary based system. There these things are starting in a small example, but there's like car sharing programs starting and things like that and whatever. That could really be implemented even a lot more if they're giving out to society, you don't have to worry about, spending all these life hours just to have a car, just to have transport, just to have this. If you want to have your own one, you can. Like, you can, if you feel the need that you need to, or whatever, you need to take it for a second, that's fine, that's all there too. But it's just a lot of really just approaching societal conditions with the scientific method. And that's not really what's going on in society now. There's a lot of, like Tasha was saying, opinions, people, they just are elected to represent people. They just go off their opinion on what should be done instead of really taking a look at how do we solve all of the needs of, everybody in that region and everybody in the world, really, and it's really focused around doing that in every way. So applying the scientific method in every way of every issue. What is the issue? Do people need houses? Okay, then we need to look at how to get them houses. And then beyond just that, because we have designs for disaster resistant buildings, and things like that. When we have climate changes coming and things like that, our research center has 10 buildings on it, and it just survived a direct hit from a hurricane, category 5 hurricane. They are fire resistant, bug resistant, mildew resistant, hurricane resistant, flooding resistant. The domes, a lot of the designs are dome shaped, not all of them, but there's reasons for it. It's because it inverts the cone of the tornado up inside itself, so it can't grip your house like it can with a square shaped house. It's not like, oh, hey, let's just stand out and make a dome shaped looking thing because we think it looks good. None of the designs have to do with architectural creativity. They have to do with how are we going to keep people alive in the variety of conditions that we experience in Earth. How do we make it comfortable? How do we make it stay cool when it needs to stay cool, and hot when it needs to stay hot most efficiently? And that's just basically applying all of that at every time to being the most efficient and also most abundant that we can. We have Jacques has worked out so many different things that he was, very convinced that with applied sciences, if we were to come together and really apply this kind of stuff globally towards the issues we face, that we could restore the entire Earth within 10 years. And that's really making it a priority. Like, if we just took away from all of these dumb priorities that we have, warring over resources still, and this, and just the complete opposite of digging up the earth and having child labor over rocks that you can make in the lab, even if you really need a rock like that. That's good, because of certain marketing interests that are like, no, but it has to be the rock out of the ground. Just all these different things that really we would like to change people's way of thinking about it, from being so scarcity based to realizing, and that comes from a for-profit competitive system. When it's a for-profit system and the profit is the goal of the whole entire system, which when you say it, we're like, why do we have this stuff in the first place? But it came from, these are old systems, old archaic systems that are still in our new advanced technological societies. And so they're a hindrance to us. And it's just really to try and get people to see that now we don't need to have this kind of life anymore. We can really move past this and make a better world for everyone. And you say things like that and people are like, everyone? And we're like, no, everyone. Every single person is just as valuable as, as any other person. But we've been in this, ingrained in these competitive systems where we've been taught, that some one kind of person is better than another kind of person, or more deserving than another kind of person. And it's just simply not the case. and we don't have to do that anymore. Like,
Yeah,
I
you're exactly
don't know
right.
that we really needed to do it in the beginning, actually, but like,
Yeah,
let's just say that we don't need to do it anymore.
we
you know?
definitely don't. But how do
Yeah.
we? Okay, so speaking as the Venus Project, how are you going to implement some of these ideas into reality? What are some of I saw you have different phases of your proposals that
Right.
on your website. Could you talk about that? How is the
Yeah.
Venus Project implementing these ideas?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, a lot of times, I guess, obviously, some people ask or, assume that we're talking about these things and we just want to, change things overnight, and that we're just about trying to boycott, society overnight. I mean, just practically, that's not how the change happens. So, I mean, we have, our solutions have, a process in multiple phases. Obviously, we have still pretty limited resources. So, having some kind of a timeline is really kind of impossible for a project of this magnitude. But from the point of view of, what we would want to do next is, our next big step would be a Center for Resource Management, which, currently, like Jennifer mentioned, we have a research center that's in Venus, Florida, and that's on a, relatively small scale. There's generally between, 2 and 6 people living there at the moment, and, other facilities there are generally for research and, just to store information and everything that's already been built. So, the next step obviously would be bigger than that. So Center for Resource Management would be assist, a project of the size of, let's say, a, university campus or something along those lines, where, obviously we could house more people, where we could, already test at least some aspects of a resource-based economy applied practically. But also have that as an education center, as a, marketing center, as a demonstration of architectural designs, and, some of the social aspects of that too. So really, our goal is to demonstrate as much as we can with the resources that we would get from various sources of funding, to just try to demonstrate what could be, everyday life in a more progressive, newer system like that. And then at the same time, have facilities there to um, to to promote, and, the project itself, but also to go to the next step from there, which would, be a test city of, again, depending on what kind of funding would be for that, of the size where that would actually be, something that you can spend a few days, weeks there, and really experience, um, what kind of lifestyle that would actually be in a resource-based economy. So, obviously the transition is going to take time, and we want to take those practical steps to demonstrate that to people.
Yeah, and I just want to mention too, we do have, speaking about the research center that's down in Florida, Jacques and Roxanne built that themselves. They, worked their entire lives um, in different industries. Jacques worked all over the place, Boeing, this, that, everything. You can look at his resume is also on our website, and so you can see it. It is extensive, as is Roxanne's. Just with he's an inventor, designer, everything like that. And but they are not rich. They never have been, and they both worked nonstop. And Roxanne really did she really worked nonstop in the monetary system. Jacques maybe even had a little bit more flexibility with that, because you know, sometimes he would just be working on a project or a design or something like that in between something and whatever. But you know, they just worked, and they bought their little 20 acres in Venus, Florida, which is still like population 600, I think. So, you know, 40 years ago, it was like, you know, who even knows? And, you know, they wanted, Jacques, he wanted an island, you know, to test everything on its own island and stuff like that. But they never had the money to do that, you know, so they got 20 acres in Florida, and they just would build it. They didn't take out any mortgages. You know, maybe there is a donation button, you know, they would get little donations throughout the years and stuff like that. But it would basically be like, okay, take your check and spend it on the next project. They built those disaster resistant homes or residences that we have there themselves, you know. I mean, yeah, they had like a crane come in and bring like the steel rebar stuff and drop it and everything, but they were there, you know, putting all the concrete and testing all these things out. And it was, Jacques actually wanted a Category 5 hurricane to come through there to test it, and it actually never did until he passed away. And then when he passed away, it was like the year 1 or 2 years after he passed away.
Wow.
And but you know, Roxanne was like, "Wow, it worked," you know. So you know, the landscaping was torn apart, the trees were, you know, thrown everywhere, all over everything, but the buildings were fine. And so, you know, he always wanted to do a major motion film. You know, we're still in the script phase of the major motion film, and you know, as everybody knows, probably knows, not everybody, but major motion films are very costly. You know, you have to get it in. Production can take an extremely long time, and we're in the script phase now, just because this concept is so new. It's never really been even discussed or put out anywhere before. So just trying to even get it in like script form, you know, with people and stuff. But so we have that project that we're working on, and then like Sasha said, the Center for Resource Management. The Center for Resource Management is a newer step than we used to have. We actually we had always planned to do the first city next, just, you know, to lay out everything for the first city. And then within recent years, it was decided that a Center for Resource Management would be a good additional step to put in before the city, because like Sasha was saying, we can really start to show examples there, have people come together to really demonstrate more technologies in a more accessible place, you know, and then out of their design the new cities, subsequent cities. You know, and as far as we try everything that we can, you know, we've both been in here volunteering like a decade or more now each. So, and you know, Roxanne has been in it for over 40 years, and Jacques spent his entire life on it. So you know, we have now have volunteers all over the world, 50 different countries, which is really nice. And so, you know, they're developing smaller awareness about everything in their own areas. And, you know, it's nonprofit. Nearly everybody is a volunteer with everything that has to do with it. You know, some things you'll have to have paid for, you know, to pay for like a paid service or something, you know, but other than that, you know, everything is mostly volunteer. We were awarded by the United Nations recently for our sustainable city and community designs, but we got an award. We got a glass award, which is very nice, but we didn't get any financing or anything like that to develop the design. So, but it was very nice of them. They obviously did not have to award us, and it helps a lot with mainstream credibility to be awarded something by the United Nations, because persons that might be like, oh, that's some crazy, you know, off the wall thing, look at it a little bit more for that. We just actually had an article in Forbes too, which was was really interesting because Forbes is a money magazine. You know, I mean, Forbes is a money magazine.
Right, yeah, it's the
like
money
that was
magazine,
probably
yeah.
one of the more shocking interviews that or articles that we got. 'Cause, you know, yeah, so you know, just trying. We're always us trying. We have the different departments. You know, as more people find out about us, more people volunteer with us, and then we can grow each department or start new departments. You know, and things like that. We have amazing people working in our international groups that try to translate everything into different languages. You know, that comes out so that more and more people could be involved with it around the world. And it's just that, you know, we try everything. Or it's like, you know, people are like, why don't you call this celebrity? Like, why don't you call Elon? It's like, I don't have Elon. Nobody has Elon Musk's phone number in their cell phone to, you know, to just call Elon like that. But we try, you know, we try to like see, can we post places obviously to people, you know, Twitter, we try all the different social media networks. And, you know, none of that obviously existed really during Jacques' time. Social media, internet and social media and things like that is very new, relatively speaking, to this project. This is a project that's like 80 years old. Jacques was one of the first people, I think, he was the first person I think recorded that described internet before it ever existed. You know, it's like he was talking about things. He was talking about magnetic levitation and like, you know, transportation in like the 30s and the 40s and stuff like that. We still don't even have. They're working on it now with Hyperloop and things, you know. But just those kind of things. So we're just always trying to get it out as much as we can with the very limited budget that we all have, and all trying, you know, everybody that's volunteering and doing this still has to survive in a monetary system. We want to just spend all of our time on this, you know, but you still have to, you know, work and things. And we just try to reach celebrities, try to reach politicians, you know, people that maybe we see that they seem like-minded, they might not be opposed to this, you know, stuff like that. And you know, just try to get it out that way as much as we can.
And I believe Sasso said earlier you also have education programs that you offer. Could you talk about those?
And just getting involved for like volunteers on the website. There's a section for getting involved, where, you know, that program is also listed there. But just, you know, everything from website to, you know, to design to marketing to, you know, all these things, we're always looking for volunteers.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, that's just kind of one of the answers of, you know, what's the next step is, well, we need more people to get involved, because that grows, you know, that grows the contact list too. You know, you never know, you know, who the next person knows and gets you in contact with somebody, you know, that might be significant. You know, a lot of times people ask, well, when is going to be this, when it's going to be that. Maybe sometimes it's just one phone call away or one person away, but you just don't know. You know, the more of us that we have volunteers that are kind of combing the general population with, you know, trying to find people that you know, that will support these ideas, the more chance we have to find somebody that maybe also has some, you know, more let's say material means in this system, whereas we often don't. And like Jennifer said, you know, even myself, like I've been a lot less active now for the last 2-3 years almost, because, you know, life has just thrown you a curveball and then you have to deal with it. And a lot of times, you know, volunteering is just something that, you know, you do that when you have free time. And if you find yourself not having that free time anymore, then you have to scale it down. You know, obviously one of the things that we would like to benefit from if we would have a center for resource management is that, you know, those kind of people that would be there would actually be able to dedicate their whole, you know, life to that and not be a volunteer. Because, you know, a lot of times we have projects that start with really great volunteers that put in a lot of work, and then things happen in life and then they can't do it anymore. And a lot of times that project just gets put on hold because, you know, nobody can pick up the slack. You know, all those kind of things are obviously a big issue with the monetary system being as it is. So, you know, volunteer organizations like that, obviously, as you sure know, and your listeners too, is can be very problematic. There's
And a lot of our volunteers are very, obviously not all of them, but a lot of our volunteers are very kind of in this for the long haul, which is great. So, but what, when you are in it for the long haul, there are just some rough, like Sasha was saying, some rough years. There's a year, this person dies, this person is sick, you're sick, school change, a job change, a moving change, all of the above at the same time. You never know.
Yeah.
And so there are dips with activity throughout the years and stuff like that too, but that then the people that are really in this for the long run, then they just come back, and you're working 10 years and then you're like, hey, these last 2 years are tough, but then when you have more people to help, then obviously we're able to facilitate that either easier. And I know even just from when I started, how many people that have come on since then that have really helped expand it out, and we've been able to take departments and add more people to help coordinate and co-coordinate in this, so that when those things kind of happen, then things are not stalling as much, and they can still still move on and stuff. So
Yeah.
That's been great. There's been really a lot it was just Jacques and Roxanne doing this for the longest time. I mean, they had and Jacques, they would there was nothing, so they would have to go put a newspaper ad about a lecture, or say something on the radio about the lecture, or whatever. And then it was very exciting because there was TV, and then color TV, and then or whatever, and just there was only really a plane to fly somewhere, then to go lecture somewhere else or something. But there was no internet, there was no these fast transmissions of information, and being able to connect to people so easily, and connect to people. Now we can connect to people really by category. We can be oh, who are people that are interested in an environment? Cool. Who are people that are interested in this? Cool.
Yeah.
And skip over the people that maybe want to watch the world bird. Maybe we won't want to talk to them yet.
Right,
you can target it. Not that you want to skip over anybody, but I mean it's just very interesting, that you can start to sort things that way and stuff, and it's helpful. So with all these new changes and stuff like that, it's definitely a lot more, like I said, reception than we ever had before, which is nice. But it unfortunately, again, being in a monetary system, we still do have to have funding even to implement what we're discussing about evolving and transitioning to an operating system that doesn't require money. We you can't escape that, or we're still in this one.
Yeah. Now I can see how the Venus Project may be a threat to certain individuals, organizations, government agencies. Have you gotten any pushback at all for doing what you do?
I think there's not, I mean, I don't think anything too big as far as from what we've been talking about. I think we're not there yet to be, to just be big enough. I think there's so many other concerns, I think, the people that, for people in power at the moment, that I think we're not that high on the list. But I mean, for sure, there's a problem of just people are not motivated to do that. People that have finances or that are in that world, obviously a project that has a goal to kind of
remove money.
And the monetary system is definitely not a great incentive to invest in. But I mean, there's like we said before, a lot of times you just need to find the right person. People do change too, due to circumstances. I'm sure you're gonna have you already have people that do things with nonprofits after they get to the point where they have enough money. But it's mostly the problem is that mostly goes to causes that are generally just doing patchwork on the existing problems. So, if you have, let's say, dealing with homelessness, okay, you can have, certain states or certain cities that are really doing well with trying to get homeless people off the streets, and they have benefits for them, and things like that, and programs. So all that is great, but fundamentally you have a system that makes new homeless people all the time. So you're not really addressing the core issue. You're just kind of putting patches on top of that problem, which obviously for those people that receive that help, it's life changing. But generally for the system, the way that it operates, it's just not, because you get more homeless people on the other end, going out for very different, for many different reasons. And if those reasons are not removed, if you don't look at, oh, why do people go without a home, how does that happen, can we prevent that, then yeah, you're dealing with patchwork stuff. And so there's a lot
for
of
everyone.
Yeah. So
You
there's
know?
a lot of, I think there's a reasonable amount of people that do beneficial work like that, that help a lot of individuals out. But as far as having, like a social goal of changing the social system for that problem not to even exist, that is very, very rare, unfortunately.
And I would say, as far as pushback, I would say for me, I have seen pushback, but not like pushback along the level of like, people are trying to assassinate us and do this and do that kind of. Thank goodness. I hope we don't get to that. Jacques used to joke around all the time. He was like, I can't believe nobody's killed me yet. But
Right.
But I think pushback has come for volunteers along the years. Pushback came for Jacques and Roxanne in the form of them telling them the same kind of thing that happens when any new technology or idea is discussed. A lot of times, people are like, that's impossible, it'll never happen. Said the same thing about a plane. It's impossible, but humans will never fly. There's not, and they kind of, since this is such a new idea, I think they were really, especially in Jacques' time when he's talking about stuff like that, people were like, what? And so I think they got pushed back in that way. And I think volunteers have gotten pushed back when they very excited. We see we see a movie and we're like, oh my God, like, and you try to show it to your friends and show it to your family, and they're like, yeah, our documentary, and they're like, take money outright, and you're like, how come you're not as excited as I am? Like, kind of deal. And they're like, because that's crazy, because monetary system, like, again, everybody's been born in it. But I think now that we know there's people that are like, if you're gonna stay doing this, I can't be with you because I'm a capitalist. Like, I just no, or something like, they really will. But actually, on the other side of that, I have to say that over all these years, I have seen persons that were like that myself, even friends of mine. I have friends of every kind of belief system and thought, and things. And, there's people that are just like very but the monetary system's wonderful. So no, like, but I like those disaster resistant designs, or I like an aspect of it, or something like that. And then I've seen these people just do a complete about face. They're like, yeah, no, it has to go this way. I can't, like, I mean, these are very capitalistic or whatever, like I said, financially inclined, that are like, yeah, no, it seems like it does have to wind up at that. Like, my jaw's like on the floor. Like, what? I like, 7 years ago I talked to you and you were like, no, like that thing that you've been involved with. Yeah, I think it might have to go that way now, like, but so I think also with the mainstream credibility and things like that, that's been coming with, being on BBC, being on these different things, being on the United Nations, being on Forbes, that people, it's helping not to get so much pushback, at least pushback in regards to, this is impossible, this will never happen kind of thing. People are like, maybe, yeah, conditions do kind of suck. oh look, it's oh look, they said it's a
Yeah.
good idea.
For sure.
Maybe it's not just this small obscure thing that you guys are spending your time on. So
Yeah, we definitely need a change, and I think this is a great project. Now, it's thevenusproject.com. Again, I want to thank you both for coming on tonight. That was fantastic information.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Definitely. So if people want to get involved, they can go to a certain section of the website. Is that right?
Yeah, there's a get involved part of the website. Basically, it lists all the projects and everything that we've already discussed before. Everything that basically an everyday volunteer can get involved with is there. There's also a few more specific projects for looking for engineers and data miners and things like that. So that's for pretty specific people with specific skill sets. But there's a lot of very general things that we are now a part of everyday life of social media, help with translations,
point of contact.
With different activists that are in different parts of the world. If there's a local area, a local group already in your area. The project is pretty popular out of the U.S. In many ways, the U.S. Has been
slower to.
It's more more ingrained in the capitalist, I guess, system than many other developed democracies or countries. So many ideas are generally let's say a little bit easier digestible there than here. So that's also an option for people that are not US based and all that. But just so much information on the website too about how we got to where we are here. If people are interested in Jacques and Roxanne's background and everything is there.
Free documentaries. We have free documentaries. Our training, like Sasha was saying, also too, to come on. We want everybody to be able to volunteer with us, regardless, as he was saying, if you have any kind of real specialized skill set or not, we still want you to be able to come help. Sure. So we do have those trainings in different courses, and those are all free, to everybody. And
awesome. That's great. Yeah, guys, go check out thevenusproject.com. I'm going to have a link for that in the description. Jennifer and Sasso, thank you again so much for coming on. Great information.
Thanks for having
us. Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, man, I hope you guys are able to get this going and change the world.
Thanks, man. We're trying. We're trying every possible avenue we can think of, that's okay.
Yeah, keep it going. It's good stuff. Thank you guys again.
Thanks a lot.
Right. And until next time, everyone else, have an excellent evening.